Okay, it's 4:30, so let's call the meeting in order. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Looks like all members are present, so we have a quorum. First thing on the agenda here is a council meeting of August 9th, the minutes were sent. Sandy, is there any additions or corrections of those minutes? Hearing none, I'm going to make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted and with no changes. So,
I'll second that.
we got first and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? First on the agenda, Sean. Come up and introduce yourself as public.
Sean Warner, Dubois County Health Department Administrative Director. So I just have two items on the agenda today. First is to approve the budget for the new testing site. Do they have that information saying you're going to explain to them?
I gave you a sheet that looks like this with the 3 line items for it. We can't advertise this, we didn't get it in time. So if you declare an emergency and give him permission to go ahead and spend, we'll advertise it and approve it formally at the next meeting.
And that's for the grant.
The COVID-19 test site grant.
We started last Tuesday.
So, we would have to we'd have to agree on that, providing emergency approval. Any comments or any comments on this, or should we want to take action here tonight? So this is a separate, would be a separate approval line item to be able to advertise it.
Well, by declaring it an emergency, he can go ahead and spend it, which he's already spending it. Because we have the test site
We
open.
don't have a choice.
So,
It's open, the public needs it.
right.
This is the amount that Blue Ridge requested. The rest is rent and other operating expenses. So that's what we need is 280 for the Blue Ridge to be providing the service. Yes,
308, 407,
that's the total.
704, I'm sorry.
That's the total contract I signed, which states that's the total money we're getting.
There's no other,
Is the test site open 7 days a week?
5 days a week.
5 days a week?
Tuesday through Saturday.
any other comments or questions before we, otherwise I'll entertain a motion to have emergency approval of $308,704.
Make the motion.
Charmaine,
I'll second.
Doug seconded, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
All right, and the second one is basically asking to put another round of funding into the rainy day fund to fund these same line items that we had last year. Mainly the COVID clerk is what we need. Any other ones we would only use if it came to that. Currently, it was approved for 5 days. I think we're working in the one day and the other one 4, but we're bringing the part-time one in another day to work under as a COVID temp. So I know Sandy had just given me for 5 days, but I'm wondering if we can't get Irma moved up to 2 days, so I don't have to pay for it out of 2 funds. It would make our life easier and cleaner when it becomes a payroll. Now I have to go to commissioners pending your guys' approval for that.
Well, this would add to the 2022 budget. the commissioners only approved these positions until the end of this year, so that's why he's gotta go back. But if he wants to add another day in here, we'll have to increase this one number, and I don't know what that number might be.
37,128, and then that also raises the COVID benefits because you have to pay FICA, right?
Yep, gotta match.
So Sean, so you're talking about the first line item here,
No, it would be the
01.
The first one is
Immunization.
overtime, the second one is COVID benefits, the third one is the part-time COVID part. So that's currently 5 days at 31,403.75, but I'm proposing to move that up to 6 days,
Okay.
for
And what,
37,128.
37,128?
And then what does that raise the benefits?
I think it's 10,431.29.
13,403.
Oh, I'm sorry,
So that's what Connie gave me.
she did it, but that's apparently not right. So it'd be 37,128 times .0765, is that right?
0.0765.
What's the difference? What is it? 0.0?
765.
438, we'd add 438 to it.
Round up, yeah.
See if my math is right.
Well, you'd have to add all these salaries.
I took the
And then
difference of the two.
And then the comp time has perf on that, so you have to add perf, which is 11.2%. So you gotta make sure all that's in there.
Right, I just did the difference between what was
Oh,
requested
okay.
and the new amount, and I added that too.
So you're adding how much?
Okay, hold on. Let me subtract. 438, 438 added to the benefits column. So it's 13,841.
13,841.
And then the other line items would just probably stay the same, but that would increase the total that would need to be put into there.
So the total,
34.
139,969,
39.
because we increased the clerk. Let me double check. $139,969, that's what I got. See if Sandy comes up with the same amount.
I have 139, 531. What did I do wrong here?
Okay, your clerk is
That's a different.
the clerk line item, 37,128.
That's what I have at $17 an hour.
Okay.
17 times, it would be 42 hours a week at 714 times 52. That's 128 for the year.
Sandy, what do you have in the benefits line item? 13,841?
That's what you had given me. I didn't calculate that. I can't do it on the stupid phone.
So we're just worried about adding, double checking that math. Just
When you're used to doing the adding machine, this thing's backwards.
So you have to take FICA from the COVID overtime.
Yes, because your health employees are full-time getting that COVID overtime, so they are entitled to perf. We should have called me about this earlier today.
Well, we just thought about it before I came.
That's what I come up with. 139,969, I mean, when you, 39,969.
The benefits calculated.
Okay, hold on.
139,969, that's what I have, yes.
Okay.
Okay, now what's the per percentage on there?
11.2%.
Okay, the benefits I come up with is 13,186 total.
Instead of 841.
I added up all the new
How does
amounts.
it down?
It can't go down, there's no way. It's 13,402 is what it was before, if we increased it by 5,000.
Well, I wonder if that was exactly right. I just took what Connie's number was from the year. She said something from the time before, so I wonder if we had it exactly to the penny. You know, sometimes we round up.
Did you take 11.2% of
35,000.
37,000, 23,000, 16,000? and
No,
10,000?
you just do the 35. That's the only one who had the perk. But then you take all of those salaries minus the 5,000.
Mhm.
And the third, you know, minus that bottom 5,000 times the FICA. $1,026. FICA. %, 39, 20. Yeah, I get less. No, I get more.
13,187. FICA.
Awesome.
FICA, I mean, perfectly 39,000, 3,920.
Did you get 9267 for the FICA?
Well, you have 134,969 times .0765. 10,326.
I have a wrong number in there somewhere.
You gotta take, well, you take the 139,969 minus the 5,000.
Well, I mean, that's the benefits included.
Oh, yeah, take that off too.
Right.
You're right,
It's just the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 line items.
Yes, you are correct. Nine two six six, 9267. $13,187.
Is that what we should put in there then?
So what would the total amount be that we want?
13,187.
And then the total would be
I shall change your total.
139,315 is what I come up with. 139,315. Yes. So that's the amount, we would have to approve that for the 22 budget, right?
To add that to the rainy day budget,
Yes.
yes. Pending pending commissioners say we can have this additional day. And have them, period. You have to approve them for next year at all.
So anyone else got any questions for Sean? Otherwise, we're gonna look for a motion to approve that $139,315 for the 22 budget for a rainy day. I'll look for a motion to approve that. Okay, Sonia's made a motion to approve the $139,315. Have a second?
I'll second.
Alex seconded. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, so that's approved. Sean, probably next time it might be better to have it prepared.
Do I?
Maybe better to have it prepared.
That's right.
I mean,
Can you send me those new numbers?
Yeah, because I gotta change it now.
Well, I didn't expect booster shots to come and have all this extra work coming, so.
Thanks, God, and
All right,
hopefully we got her in line, so,
sounds good. Have a good evening.
yeah, thanks. Okay, the next on the agenda here is, Chris and Beth Wallace, for the COVID memorial.
Okay, we got a prepared statement here, so I'll go ahead and read that, and then we have copies for you later along with some pictures for you to go over. So as you may be aware, the DuBois County Commissioners unanimously agreed to allow for a COVID-19 memorial to be placed on the county courthouse lawn. The vision of the memorial is being worked on by a committee of DuBois County residents, and those include frontline workers, elected officials, teachers, and business professionals. The memorial will have two intentions: to pay tribute to those frontline workers who bravely risk contracting an often fatal virus to keep our communities healthy, safe, nourished, and educated during the pandemic. To honor those residents of DuBois County that lost their lives to complications of the virus, and to their families that continue to grieve and were not able to be with them as they passed. So those are the two intentions. The funding for the memorial will be made through contributions from various county foundations, organizations, businesses, and citizens until the estimated $20,000 is met. So no taxpayer money will be needed for this. But as we plan for the fundraising, we are needing an avenue for the contributions to funnel through for payments to vendors to be made. It has been suggested that we approach this council and ask that the DuBois County Auditor's Office be that avenue. It is our understanding that it would be similar to the funding that is set up to support the dogs for the Sheriff's Department. One thing that may be different than the dog fund is that once the memorial is considered complete, meaning that the structure has been erected and an unveiling and memorial service has occurred, the ownership and maintenance of the memorial will be turned over to the county. Knowing that the county will take over the maintenance, we are moving forward with a long-lasting and low-maintenance material and construction for the monument itself. So that's to minimize any cost in the future. So we are here today to ask you, the County Council, to grant approval for the contributions for the DuBois County COVID Memorial to be made payable to the DuBois County Auditor, who will then, in turn, pay any bills that are submitted by vendors. So we need to know what next steps might be for this. I think the word resolution comes into play. We know that. And we'll take any questions that you might have. So Chris has a copy of what I just read and some pictures there of what we think the memorial that's been approved by the commissioners as far as what the memorial will look like. Tara Ekman is also here. She's going to be heading up the fundraising along with us, and so she can help with any questions you might have too.
guess the question that I have is, so as we continue and people continue to pass, and the names are gonna be on this?
Names will not be on
Okay.
this. It's gonna be a generic overall. We have no way of getting the names, and even if we did, we probably would not do that.
Any comments from anyone?
So I got a question. Why is COVID so important to you guys? That you feel that you took up the project of creating a memorial? Is it personal or? Because there's a lot of memorials. You know, ideally, everyone that dies would be memorialized. Why is COVID what you want to memorialize at the county courthouse?
I think what really catches it up, that makes it significantly different than anything else, is the impact it's had on every person in the county and the nation, whatever. You know, not just, like I've heard people say, well, breast cancer affects a lot of people. Well, that's true, and it does impact your family, but it's not communicable, it doesn't spread like this did, it doesn't shut down businesses, it doesn't shut close schools. And so I think, you know, as we saw some other, back in the winter, we saw some other memorials taking place throughout the country. You know, they're few and far between, no doubt, but as we saw others going on, and, you know, why not do Boise County? We could be first in the state or whatever, you know, just get off the couch and do something about it, so.
And it's really a proactive approach. Again, you know, there's things we've, you know, been able to pull off the internet, and it's saying it is different than anything we've ever had. I'm sure every one of you has been impacted, whether you had to help with children at school, you know, with their schoolwork, or get, you know, instead of going into a restaurant, you had to get a curbside. Just everything, you know, the teachers, you know, that were involved, and they had to just turn, you know, the tables on things, and they had to react, and they had to, you know, I know what it was. I helped my grandsons with their teaching, and what those teachers had to do to prepare for the e-learning that was out there. Everyone. So to, you know, answer that, Alex, too, it is just totally different than anything that we've ever had, that we have, and it's not over with yet.
I will say, being a teacher myself, it has changed the last 3 school years very end. It's gonna change at least how we do education, probably here going forward in multiple ways.
Yeah.
So,
I thought you might have some info.
yeah, it's still trying even right now with my schools masked up again. So, and just the amount of kids that are out for that and various other reasons, it's made it challenging to effectively teach and do our job the way we feel that we're making an impact that we should be. So.
And again, it has been approved by the commissioners, so what we are asking for is now to get it paid for.
Okay. I mean, my only comment on it is, or a couple comments here is, you know, the commissioners did approve, you know, the position, the monument and the position, you know, the position in the law there. But no taxpayer money is supposed to be used on this. I just feel by us getting involved in this as a county we have to then, you know, get the attorney to write up the resolution. We have to have the auditor collect these dollars, keep track of them, and then we're open to a state audit at the end of this is done, you know, with these private funds. And I just don't feel, this is my opinion, that we should not be getting involved in the fundraising, the holding and payment of any kind of construction. I mean, that's my opinion, and I just feel if there's something, you know, I think that money should be collected by a foundation. It should be just, you know, like a financial institution or a CPA. They keep the private funds separate from public funds.
We had approached the DuBois County Community Foundation about this, and they kind of waned away from it, saying that a lot of their funds come in as generic in a pool, and then they dole it out as necessary, so it's not targeted for a specific
Yes.
thing. And we wanted to make sure that this was targeted, and we just collect just the money that it takes to, the 20,000 or so that it's gonna take to do it, and get that paid, and then end the project, so.
But you know, if someone comes up with you know, an illness that needs a lot of medical attention, money, to raise money from, you know, private funds, a lot of times that's done through a financial institution, you know, a fund is set up and it's set up, anybody can go in the financial institution and then deposit money into that account. And I really feel that that's the way this ought to be done. I just don't think we should spend the auditor's time, you know, taking a $20 bucket check and have to go to the bank and then put it in a public fund. I just don't think it matches.
Well, I think, to kind of answer that, we are looking at getting large amounts from a few places. So transaction-wise, you might even be looking at 10 transactions, honestly. And vendor-wise, you're looking at less than 10. So the time, you know, the accounts payable and the accounts receivable part of the whole thing is so minor, because we are, you know, just thinking about and knowing the foundations and, you know, Tara's input and the input that we've got from our committee, that we think that's, you know, these foundations and these organizations, you know, it's not going to be a whole lot with that. It really isn't. It's going to be very minimal as far as the receivables and then the payable part of it.
But it still doesn't change. It doesn't change that it's mixing public and private funds. It's my thinking.
Well, it's, you know, like I said, it is relative to the dogs, I guess, is what, you know, we're kind of looking at there, to what they're doing, you know, with the sheriff's department. And that was the example that we were given.
Okay.
As far as, you know, something similar. And to kind of go back to the foundation, the Dubois County Community Foundation, it's our understanding too that they will contribute, but it needs to go through, you know, a nonprofit or a government entity, and we will be relying on them to donate some money, and it needs to go through one of those two.
See, you know, not to interrupt, but you know, see, the county is not tax deductible.
We know that.
You know, so I mean, anybody writes a check is not going to be able to write it off on.
We are aware of that.
So, that, you know, that's a different situation too here. So, I know that's, you know, that's my piece. If anybody else has got anything,
So-
go ahead.
Oh, God, so if it gets higher than 20,000, where's that money? Are we keeping that, housing it then for future, or are you guys, once you get to 20,000, it shuts off?
Oh,
or-
no, that's just very estimated. There's some costs
That's
that,
all quotes. We have
Yeah.
quotes so far.
yeah, we don't have any final. If we need more, then we will get more. So, and it could be that the community foundation is the one that does like the balance of whatever is needed at that point.
Yeah, they kind of hinted to the prospect that raise as much money as you can and we'll fill in the gaps if there's.
That's my biggest concern, you know, we set up the fund, we start taking donations, and then we don't have enough to do your project.
Oh, it'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not gonna stop until we have everything on that. And it's not gonna be a lot of, the private citizens are the last ones we would go to for your $20 donations. That's not our
Well, I'm
intent.
just using that as an example. I don't know, you know.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Tara? That's
Yeah,
probably
I mean,
gonna be.
I need to come up, don't I, if I'm speaking. Like they said, I'm just involved in the fundraising a little bit. We don't anticipate that we're gonna have to, go after too terribly many corporations and foundations. There's a hospital foundation meeting Tuesday night where we're hoping to get a big amount of seed money that will then be able to approach other foundations and corporations. And I'm hoping it's 10 or less, like they said, that we're able to do this with. I think there's been some discussion if we do collect in excess, I mean, that 20,000 is these two's work, but I think it's will more than cover based upon the estimates they've got. So I don't have concerns based upon the involvement I've had that we're gonna go over that. I think there may be some left if, and then we have talked about, I believe that it could go however the county wants to do it, if they want to put it into some sort of place to manage the maintenance of it or whatever that might look like, because it commissioners also agree that, as that said, the county would take on the maintenance, which should be little to none. But it would not be our intention to take it back and do anything with it if there's excess funds. I understand your concern, but we're very committed to raising every bit of what this costs.
That's what one of my concerns was too, like on the other side, the maintenance side of it, is there going to be maintenance that after the fact would need to be taken into account?
But if you can tell by the pictures there, it's made out of granite, so no maintenance there, and we're gonna set it on a stamped concrete pad at the request of the maintenance people at the courthouse. That's the lowest maintenance there. So, no, there shouldn't be hardly any maintenance. Maybe a coating on the concrete pad every few years or something, but, nothing different than what they probably do sidewalks and stuff.
Are you going to, is this gonna have a foundation, below grade? Like
Yeah.
freezing and thawing?
Yeah, and we're getting quotes on that right now, to close that out, but we've already got quotes on all the granite and the carvings and the etchings that are gonna go onto it. The only thing we're still up in the air about is, the pad, which is a 10-foot diameter pad. And it's gonna be about 5 inches thick with gravel underneath of it, so we talked to Jasper Lumber about it, and, they gave us a quote. I thought it was pretty high, so we're looking around at a couple others. So, once we get those, and part of that, cost is to do all the work, to install it, do the grade, reseed the grass, if they, tear it up and put it back there.
Because you'd wanna get a foundation below frost line, so it
Yeah,
doesn't move around, without freezing and thaw cycle. And then utilities, you'll get like 811 or somebody to locate the utilities to make sure you
Yeah.
build this over a sewer line coming in or.
Correct, so that, and also, I just lost the train of thought there. Oh, the permits, there'll have to be permits to do the work too, so Jasper Lumber is willing to do that, and then anybody else I bring in, I want them to quote that as well.
Because, I think the county also has a certificate, you have to provide a certificate of insurance to do any kind of work on county property.
Oh, that right?
If it's $1 million or whatever it is, it has to be, gotta have a liability policy. So, and then the structural foundation, is that gonna be reviewed by the county engineer?
With Brent, I think we were asked to bring him into it.
So, I think that would be something, because, if we're gonna have that on the square, or you don't wanna, we want this thing to last 100 years.
Right.
And they're just like the Civil War memorial, or social and civil.
That's the goal.
It's can't be pushed over by a couple kids,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's also why it ended up being made out of granite. It's heavy, it's durable, you can't really tear it up too much.
So some of this, I don't know if there's any other comments or some, yes, everybody's familiar with, we do not have to make a decision tonight, we can, think about it or get public opinion on it and decide at the next meeting in September. It's entirely up to us. If we want to take a vote on it tonight, that's fine too, but I think sometimes when you think it through a little bit, the State Board of Accounts would have to audit this account,
It would be
right?
one of our funds.
Yes.
We'd have to report it on our annual report.
We just went through an audit of 1920, I think, 2 years, so, it's something, again, I just don't like mixing private and public funds.
If you choose to do it, I would have to get a resolution made up to create the fund and say what we're doing with the money, how we receive the money, what we, what pay out, what would happen if there's excess money and we'd want to close the fund, blah, blah, blah.
Because it seems like if we're collecting it, we have to pay the contractors. It just seems like we're becoming like a construction manager of it, and that's something I think that you as the driving force on this should really take care of, and then turn the monument over to the county.
I was planning on staying involved with the construction and coordinating of all that, but
I think the fact that it's happening on county property, and, this is a one-time thing, it should be, done within a year. We're not trying to create a 501c3 or go through the process of all of those things. I understand your option of just going down to GAB and creating a checking account, to accept these donations, but we're trying to have it be a little bit more formalized, and because it is going to be a monument that sits on county grounds, I think one of the commissioners suggested this as an avenue, and it felt good to us, so that's why we are here. It legitimizes the project, and we're, I think, seeking that legitimization as well and support.
I appreciate that. Appreciate you coming in.
I had somebody call me that was concerned, and that's why I addressed it about the name. They thought this was gonna be an ongoing thing that you were gonna have to pay for, and I didn't know enough about it. I just said, I'll look into it, so that's the reason why I asked, but I guess it could be a question, so. But,
we talked about having pavers and people buy pavers and put their,
right,
that was gonna be a lot of work and maintenance, and who knows when it ends, like you said.
right.
So we kind of detracted away from that. So, yeah, when I talked to Kevin Smith at the Du Bois County Community Foundation, they were kind of like, you need to either go through a 501c3 or a government organization because investors or donors will like to see that. They don't really want to see a check written to me. That's kind of doesn't legitimize it. So that's why we kind of took this avenue to see if we could.
And why do they think the government is gonna be any different, I mean, they still can't write it off or deduct it as an expense, taxes. Just writing it to Du Bois County doesn't give you that advantage.
Well, he also said that, given the fact we're only talking about $20,000 here for a total, and any one donor would be a fraction of that, whatever, that probably tax deduction's not a big hang up if the county was to do this.
So
And we will be relying on the county foundation, also, and I said they're the community foundation. And they're, that's what they're banking on, is that it's going in this, since we're not gonna do the nonprofit, that we will be going through.
I mean, I think that the fact that it will have to be audited and goes to all the things that you have said is part of why, writing a check to the county legitimizes
But
it.
it does cost the county money.
I understand.
Have her run to the bank and run to the, so it does.
It really runs to the bank.
Hey, good to see you. I'm concerned.
We receipt it in and we take it to her and she takes it to the bank, but it's still
Transaction.
a transaction that people are.
I share Mike's concerns with donations being made to the county, because, it's gonna get, word's gonna get around, there's gonna be people that are gonna wanna, chip in $25 or whatever, I mean, I just don't, I don't want the auditor's office to have to go through that extra work. I mean, the commissioner said there's no county funds, and I feel like we're asking our employees to spend, whatever time it's gonna take to receipt it, keep track of it, audit it.
We didn't have any red flags before this, honestly. I mean, Sandy, we approached that, and I've done accounts payables, I've done receivables. It's hey, give me a stack and let's pay them, and it's gonna be, a very, very small transaction. And it's, I can't imagine that it's gonna take a lot of time to be concerned about.
I think that'll depend on, like Charmaine says, of where it gets out and how many people say, I'll send $25. You could end up having a lot of transactions possibly. And that is a lot of extra work on the auditor's and treasurer's office.
It's certainly not our intention to even approach the public in a way that they would even know to make a check to the auditor's office. So there's that, and if that became something we had to do, perhaps in that case we could create, like I said, a checking account like Mike suggested, and then we clear it out at the end to Sandy to handle small donations. But to start, we're going to approach large corporations. After we understand Memorial's commitment, we're going to approach large corporations and foundations. a dozen at most, in the beginning. So I don't know how word would get out necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of how a lot of the other donation funds have gone, you know. Whoever raises the funds and then they bring it in, you know, even with the dog account works like that, I think, you know,
The sheriff took
the
them.
sheriff takes in the money and then they, you know, and it goes,
Put it there to the auditor,
The checks are made to the treasurer,
or to the treasurer. So, I mean,
but like the sheriff collected them, brought them in.
I'm happy to do that.
Well, one of my
However
concerns would be
easy.
is if somebody comes in and says, hey, I want a deduction now, and I can't give that.
Yeah.
And I've had that.
Yeah.
People have called and said, I want, to deduct some of my taxes, and I can't give them that.
Okay.
Is it possible to talk to the Memorial Hospital Foundation? They could do that financial part.
We can ask that question, I suppose. I mean, not
That's what I was
because it's been on the committee, so, the commissioners suggested this is an avenue, so it seemed like a good one to us.
Yeah.
Seems like it might not be.
Because I know when we were working on the census, then we got a grant in from Community Foundation, and you had to write the checks to the different media outlets that we used.
That's a great.
But it was the same reasoning, you know. So,
I think the concern is about who are the foundations and the corporations around the county that are write the check to initially. And I don't think it should be Chris Waltz, I think it needs to be a legitimate, business or organization or something.
This needs to be a COVID Memorial Fund.
There was, talk of this existing on the hospital grounds at some point, and because one of the objectives here is to create a historical marker, as you said, Mike, hopefully it lasts more than 100 years, and people are talking in generations about what this was, what this meant, and their stories handed down. It felt like it made sense, and the commissioners agreed to put it there. So because it's a county memorial, not a Memorial Hospital memorial, this felt like a natural fit for us.
I think another thought that just came to me, there are some in the public that are concerned, they don't want county money being spent on it, and I mean, I get that. But I think that might be another way, even though these are private monies coming in, donations, just the idea that they're coming to the auditor's office and being spent by the auditor's office, I think it makes it appear that it's public money, which it's not. But I think that if you did do it, collect it outside and, reseeded it out like that, I don't know.
You build a monument, and if there's money left over, then that could be donated to, the Memorial Hospital Foundation. I would like for you to pursue another route at this time. We'll consider it, and we'll bring it up in the September meeting, if that's okay with everyone. And then if you could pursue maybe another, I know a lot of fundraisers are run through the financial institution, but if it's run through the foundation, it would probably be tax deductible.
Yeah, like I said, they just wanted to shy away from it. because they
Community
don't
Foundation
funnel the money through.
pretty much said they're not gonna collect it. That's what they told Craig and I.
This is the community foundation.
They won't do pass-through accounts, and that's what this is. They only set up long-term foundations, and this is simply a pass-through.
Okay. Unless any more discussion on this, or?
If we would be the ones that collect and do the resolution, I need some information. Because we have to prepare a resolution if you guys are gonna say yes. Like, any leftover money, what happens to it? What happens to the interest that's earned on that money in that account? Stuff like
And
that.
what about I guess my other concern is being in construction at one time. What if the workmanship, what if there's a dispute with the workmanship after the thing's just about finished, and then there's a problem there? Then it puts the county, to me, it puts the county in, as an arm saying, hey, we don't want to accept this, because it's not quality construction. Then we, as a again, we get more time involved in it. That's why I think it would still be best if somehow, if you could raise the money, build the project, and turn it over to have a dedication and turn it over to the county, and not the county be involved in.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of what I feel that the commissioner led us to believe, and I wanted us to do, because the general design presented to place it on the southeast lawn of the courthouse, and that taxpayer money will not be used to fund the construction.
Okay.
So it's that's my thoughts.
So you're saying we should pursue the Memorial Hospital Foundation and maybe anything else we can
Anything
come up with
else?
and then come back next month?
Right, that's what I'd like for you to do
If we fail there, or come back.
as a last resort.
Okay.
I mean, is that all right with the council, or do we want to vote on it tonight?
That's my preference.
Okay.
I agree.
I'd really like to see the money, but yeah, I kind of think that there's a lot of things that just need to be shored out as far as keeping the county work time out of it, just to make sure it's cut and dry. You know,
Okay, well, let's do that. I appreciate you for coming in. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then next, we got a resolution for the fountain.
Last month at the budget hearings, I had talked to you guys about the community foundation is holding an endowment for the courthouse fountain maintenance. And if the fountain needs any work, then we call down and tell them what we need, and they get us the money, and we go that route. What they'd like us to do is establish a fund for the maintenance, that they can give us that interest every year. We put it in the fund, and then when Scott needs anything, you all appropriate it, and we pay it out. Sometimes what happens now is he needs a small amount, and he doesn't go down there for a small amount, where this would pay for that at that time, or any big repairs come up.
So this is resolution 2021-30, resolution of DuBois County Council establishing courthouse fountain maintenance fund. Whereas the DuBois County Council desires to establish a courthouse fountain maintenance fund for the purpose of reserving and tracking funds associated with the related maintenance and upkeep of the county courthouse fountain located on the west lawn of the courthouse. Whereas the DuBois County Community Foundation holds the endowment, and for such purposes, it will send a yearly grant to the county for the maintenance, upkeep, and expenses associated with the courthouse fountain. The council has determined that a need exists for the establishment of the fund for the deposit and disbursement of the monies received from the county community foundation to be used for the maintenance, upkeep, and expenses associated with the fund. Therefore, be it resolved that there is hereby created in the office of the auditor of DuBois County a separate donation fund to be known as the Courthouse Fountain Maintenance Fund. Be it further resolved, monies may be deposited into such fund from the DuBois County Community Foundation, donations, and from other sources determined by the council. Be it further resolved, monies may be expended from such fund only for the expenses related to the fountain and upkeep subject to the appropriation by the council. And then the last one would be it further resolved that the interest in such fund shall be deposited in the DuBois County General Fund, and that in the event the courthouse fountain is removed, the funds shall be returned to the Community Foundation endowment if available, or to the DuBois County General Fund. Adopted this 30th day of August 2021.
So the only funds being deposited are coming from that endowment.
That's right. At this time,
That is, but when Greg and I worked on this, we talked to Lori up at the State Board of Accounts, and she said, say you guys got something in this COVID memorial and you wanted to put it there because you didn't know what else to do with it, or you got some kind of donation in or whatever, you want that ability to put that in there, and you guys would have to be the ones to say that's in there.
and we have to make a motion to accept it, right? Or move it into that fund.
You would have to, yes.
To receive and
To
pay.
receive.
Okay.
And if like I said, every year we'll either put it in the budget, X dollars for the fountain, or we'll come and do additional appropriation.
Anybody got any questions on this resolution?
On the resolution, when was the fountain built?
Bill, when we,
When we moved back to the courthouse after it was remodeled,
1996 is on the back.
right, the Hope Songs did a foundation, endowment, and it was built. And then now it's just,
Okay, so I'm just.
That's all
Just to
done.
make sure that in my mind, what we just talked about with the last group and
Right.
what happened with that construction. The way that was constructed was they raised the funds,
They
they paid
raised
for
it,
everything, and they turned it over.
I remember them being out there digging it and building it, because we were working,
Right, I just wanna make sure that we're treating
but
these
we did
situations
not
equally.
pay for
And it's
it.
ongoing funded too. There's
Yeah,
money.
They
doesn't
put an
cost-
endowment down there that they hold that and they paid for it.
Right, I just wanna make sure,
Like I said, every once in a while Scott might need something small for it, and he just goes out and pays for it out of his budget. But if it needs pumps or, I don't know, ask me what all it needs, then we call down to them and then they get us the check for it.
I just wanna make sure, you know,
Why they wouldn't have done that same thing and just made it,
Because it's
Have a
one
maintenance.
endowment is paying up versus, that's what they were trying to say, is all this money coming in.
when they created it,
So one person
You can
donated
make
money.
the people hair endowment that's gonna, somebody's gotta do it.
But this resolution would be similar to what we'd need if we set it.
I mean, I just wanna make sure that, you know, we're looking at like those two projects equally.
because I don't know, that's the thing here about this, previous, who's the maintenance of this memorial is gonna be, we have to do that as taxpayers, we have to keep that up. We're here, as part of their endowment, they provide the maintenance forever, basically forever. So I mean, I think that's the big difference.
Well, when she called me from the foundation, she said, normally we disperse that money every year to these entities from these endowments. We're holding yours. And she said, we really want to get away from holding people's money. We want you to hold it. So then you use it as you need fit. See,
Any other discussion on this?
It seems like we're staying consistent. In my eyes, are we not? We're doing the same thing. Is that how you
That's,
interpret it?
that's what it's looking like.
Okay, yeah, that's what.
Wanna know the history on some of the other things that,
Do you agree with that?
Is that probably one of the only other ones that we have a maintenance fund?
this is the only, I mean, like I said, the sheriff has a donation fund, which is set up for him, but he has a line in that for the drug dog that we have to keep separate. But that's only when they purchase a drug dog and anything for that dog.
What makes, because I know the city has, has done parks, let's say the green park there by the high school, that somebody put money into a fund to keep that up, and that's, I mean, it's not out of the ordinary to have something like that, but,
I don't know, I just think from what I'm seeing online and, I mean, this COVID memorial has pros and cons. People are for it, people are against it.
but, specifically, no public funds to be used, that's why I think we're going against it.
A question that when we do work on the monument here, the Civil War monument, where's that money gonna come from? We're gonna have to
Tax
appropriate
general
it for
fund, yeah.
because that will come sometime when the city's doing their revitalization and everything. We're going to be needing to do some work on that.
Currently, we do not have a maintenance fund for that.
Yeah.
So my guess would be Scott's budget.
Because that is something, I don't know how quickly that will come up, but
To me, it would be something similar to, last year when we replaced the entry doors on the courthouse, it's kind of like that, I mean, it's general
It's just building
maintenance.
maintenance, yeah.
And that's the way the monument would be if
No,
it's something,
we do have a health department maintenance fund because we have WIC that rents from there and that money goes into a fund for the maintenance of that building.
Is there any more discussion on this? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to pass this resolution.
I'll make that motion, Mike.
I'll second, Mike.
Okay, so we got a first and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The next item I have here is, the Patoka Lake is wanting to obtain a grant for for a watershed coordinator. And they would like our support. They would like our support in obtaining this. And I think, Sonia, you sat on the solid waste and you kind of brought this. I mean, Doug Merkel from Patoka asked us to do it, asked us for their support, but I think it came through solid waste, right?
It came through solid waste, yeah, at the end of our last meeting on the 16th or whatever the other Monday was, at the end of the meeting, Carla had said, they were hoping to get the support of the commissioners and the council, for the grant, and she didn't know if it'd be possible if the council would support that.
Is this a new one? Because I know her name's Julie Ware. I think it's the lower middle Patoka watershed coordinator, but she works with several other counties. I think she's in 3 different counties that she works with, and this is a different one, though, isn't it?
That is not true. This is for multiple counties.
I think this is, I guess, it was in the original.
Is it like 49 or something like
This-
that?
Yeah, it's something.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
That actually just ran out this year.
Once that it ran out?
The
Yeah.
funding did.
So this might be a renewal.
Just a
of that.
renewal.
So I'd like to read this letter if it's okay. It goes to the Indiana Department of Environmental Management of Water Quality. And it's in reference to that Patoka Lake Watershed Committee Section 319 grant application for the watershed coordinator. Dear selection committee members, please accept this letter of support on behalf of the DuBois County Council, DuBois County, Indiana. We, the council, fully support the Patoka Lake Watershed Committee in their attempt to reduce non-point source pollution in the Patoka Lake watershed by providing education on water quality issues and promoting watershed protection through lake cleanup events, signage, and other educational materials. And support their efforts by promoting watershed programs and events, connecting the watershed coordinator with landowners, stakeholders, and potential community partners, providing input and guidance through the involvement with the Patoka Lake Watershed Committee, offering financial and volunteer supports through the county organizations such as Solid Waste District. Our support of these efforts will be worth approximately $1,000 annually. We look forward to working with the Patoka Lake Watershed Committee to help provide the needed programs and funding sources to promote watershed protection, to protect our area's main drinking water source. Sincerely, got the council members. If I want to see the letter, I get a copy of it here.
Alex, do you know more what they do? I mean, it's more like, it's a cost share program that they do to
Do a few things.
reduce runoff and.
They're gonna cost share with farmers who plant cover crops, which suck in nitrogen and phosphorus, so it doesn't go into water. That's the point source that he's talking about. They'll even buy no-till equipment, cost share no-till equipment, so there's reduced soil disturbance to allow runoff and sediment runoff. And even do GPS guidance for farmers so they can precision apply nutrients and not over apply nutrients, which cause the eutrophication or the nitrogen bloom or phosphorus bloom you see in the lakes. Luckily, Patoka hasn't been, there's no buildings on it, so there's no septic runoff from homes. And obviously, this is the river going below the lake, but they just don't want it to get into any water body, specifically Patoka, So that it's an issue in like the Great Lakes area. Get them phosphorus blooms and kills a lot of wildlife, so they're just cost sharing with the farmers to reduce that.
Just so you kind of know what we're assigning support for.
And this is a renewal? Is that how the numbers said? Alex, this is.
They're out of money because I usually do a grant with a person, and I talked to Julie the other day, and she said we're out on the mouse, and I'm assuming it's what it is. And she's in probably 4 or 5 counties she covers, and she also does one for the white, so you get in Jasper, Germantown shopping, the water starts flowing down the White River, you get south of that, it flows down to Tonka, and heads to Ohio. So there's actually 2 watersheds she works with. This is just the 319, the one on the southern edge, mainly the southern part of the county would be on that one.
Any other discussion on this, or was I'll entertain a motion to help, support this program?
I would say the two, it seems like not a big deal, but if you've ever heard of blue baby syndrome and stuff like that, it all comes from this. I mean, that too much nitrogen in water causes that. I mean, it's a big deal. Water's no one thinks about it, but I would fully support it.
So you second?
I do.
Okay, we got a first by Charmaine, a second by Alex, and so all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, so I got 2, we can either do it 2 ways, or we can I got 2 copies of it, we can sign both copies, and then Albert, so graciously, he's got a meeting at Patoka Lake. The deadline, I think, is tomorrow, so he's gonna bring it up there and submit it to him. So,
Okay.
You have to bring a budget for meetings then?
Drake did. Yeah.
I'm just toilet the cabinet back there.
Oh, I'm cold. Got Drake in the
I need a snuggie.
I do.
They make professional snuggies.
Professional. I have seen some of them that you sit in and then put in your little footies like you had on or already built in.
That's a good idea.
so one of these copies of Jordan, one of them for Sam Reed and for the record.
Where you want to
I will take it.
Oh, he's here.
Thank you so much.
Do I have to sign it?
No, we
maybe?
can send the letter. I don't send the letter.
What's up?
That's not the letter.
No.
That's the resolution.
Neither am I.
That's the other resolution.
The letter.
That's mine. Good grief.
There you go.
Okay, here's the letter. We talked about it, I thought that was the first thing that was coming. Never back.
We're not,
You went the other way
we're not
first.
sure to sign.
You went the other way first.
Never back one. There we go.
No, this is the right one.
This is definitely the right one.
Thanks, Alan. So we can, she's got a copy of it. So-
Yes, I did. It's handy.
Okay, so the next thing I got on my agenda here is the 22 budget discussions.
I had a conversation with Robert Morris today, our field rep, and he advised me we need to move $3.8 million out of general fund. It's not gonna have enough revenues to fund what we are proposing.
3.8 million.
We, on the ARPA funds, we will not be getting revenue replacement funds that we know of right now. Because the CR tax, we collected it last year, so that raised our revenues, so we didn't have a loss. Even though it's not for a dedicated, it's a dedicated purpose, and we can't put it in highway or health. They look at the county as a whole, and we had, our revenues went up, so we didn't have a loss. So we were kind of hoping we would have some revenue replacement to go into this budget, but we probably won't. So we need to either move some things out or need to cut some things.
And then did you also mention, Sandy called me right before I left for the meeting, just to let me know, because we talked earlier.
We talked earlier about it.
Right. And you mentioned something about that there's actually loss in revenue also to.
There is lost revenue, but the county as a whole taking in that other revenue.
I think you mentioned like $1 million.
When we put in a tax rate, they want us to estimate high so that they can bring it down. You can't go up, you can go down. So you estimate high. So I estimated we take in $8 million on our levy, but we'll really only take in 7 million something. So there's a lost $1 million that you act like you had it, but you don't.
See, so, because I was asking Sandy, I'm like, well, our budget did not go up that much. It did not go up.
Right. The only new money that we really should be collecting is $300,000 and some thousand.
$310,544.
There you go.
I wrote it down from our budget. New tax money.
So that's your new money off of your levy being raised on your growth quotient. But we did put in more health insurance, we did put in more in fact, I think we left the same because we thought we had it calculated. We did. But we put all that stuff that we took out last year back in, the pauper council, the solid waste district, the sheriff pension match. I think what all we moved
I
last
think
year.
that's on page 26.
Right.
So, yeah.
So that all was put back in. So we need to move some stuff back out.
3.8.
That's kind of what he told me.
That's a lot.
And when I estimate revenues, I do estimate conservatively. We're just not taking in what we took in the year before. I mean, you can tell interest is down. Riverboat money is down. People just didn't go. We thought we'd get revenue replacement for all that. Now Baker Tilly is working to try to see if we can take the lit CR off, but they don't have an answer yet.
Take it off, what does that mean? We need to take it off.
In our calculations for net loss, net revenue, if we could take that out,
Okay.
there's some things that you cannot count, so they take, like our clearing funds for our payroll. You're putting it in, you're taking it out. That all gets taken out of those calculations. Because it's not really your money, you're holding it for something else. But this with CR tax, they haven't gotten any guidance on taking it out.
See, that, you know, our overall revenue increased, but we can't use that for general fund or health or highway or anything.
Right. And I know general health and highway, we all calculated a revenue loss when you took just that fund. But that's not through ARPA guidance, you have to do it as a whole.
So you got any suggestions?
All right, let's get started.
What about the CR? I mean, you're counting the CR funds too, right, in that additional revenue? I mean, could we shift some of that, those wages and stuff?
It's because we took in that as new money we got last year, it looks like, I mean, it's a revenue, we did get it.
But we could move some, what you're saying is we can move some expenses over to CR is what you're saying.
You're right.
That some of the 3.8 can move over.
Right. Like the sheriff pension, you could put it probably there, I mean, I could see that coming out of there instead of general fund or lit, edit fund.
So is that something we have to do tonight?
Well, We can do it up to, I mean, I don't advertise our budget until, I have to have it advertised by October 3rd. And by advertise, I mean submit it to the state on law. So the next meeting, we could come back and still be working on it, but we're getting closer and closer to the time that I have to have it all in to get ready and submit it.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you guys wanna think about it and.
I found 2.02 so far.
Go ahead there.
Rock.
You wanna
So
pay-
that's why I call her, she always knows how to.
So are you saying everything that was from last year already, that would go in 26?
Okay, so on page 8, let's start on page 8, if you have your budget.
You saw this, but
I did.
Oh, this year, okay. All right. Look at that. My bad. That's why it's a point.
I have roaches, I know.
Yeah.
Actually, I was all pink ones. Oh, there's green.
Page 8.
$320,000 for insurance. That's one. Another big one is the computer maintenance. 95,000. 115,000 is the next one. State institutions. We can't move Live Springs, right?
Absolutely not. And you cannot move SERS either.
How about the computer consultant, can we do that?
Yeah.
That's 135,000. See that one, that's another one that went up a lot.
Solid waste.
Did you move the state institution? Is that what you said for one of them?
Yeah.
10,000?
And you're saying to move these to lit edit fund, like we did before.
I'm just looking for big ones right now.
Solid waste. Well, you know, a huge one would be health insurance. If you want to put it somewhere, there's a huge one right there.
Yeah.
And it went up to $25,000.
There's an 88,000. The landfill. That's 88,000. I don't know. Okay, so another big one is on page 10. The two copper councils.
Page 10 has public council and so does page 11,
Page 11 does too. But yeah,
the other
there's
court.
two more. I'm telling you, people could just behave themselves.
And then page 12 had the sheriff's pension that we moved from the past.
200. 280.
You see the track?
Yeah.
Okay.
6.
Wow.
What about the hospital subsidy? That's 395,000. That's on page 16.
Maybe I should not give them raises.
The only two that I know you cannot move is these
None.
Springs,
Let's-
Life Springs, and you cannot move CERT. Because we get credit on our levy for that.
Which ones you want to do?
I was thinking of the hospital subsidy.
What page is that?
It's page 16. Okay, that's the last page, page 16.
Yeah, don't go past that because that's county, 16 is the last county general page. Now, the only thing about the hospital subsidy is if they try to pay us back like they talked about, you gotta watch which fund paid it and that might become a little bit of an issue. What?
Is that what you're trying to find? 2.8?
Mm-hmm.
To move to a different fund,
Oh.
take it out of county general and put it in a different fund that has more cash, like Lynette.
If
Edit fund has
we were done with the jail.
lots of money. It's just general fund, your expenses are more than your revenues. That's the biggest fund that everybody's paid out.
Not making any sense.
No,
People need to go to the casino and gamble, but that's, we get money from there too.
I would say,
Two boards.
okay, so Lisa Wilson moved into that like section 8 area coordinator, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so they are hiring, Purdue is hiring a support person for her. So Lauren Fenneman moved into that position, so which left it vacant. Nobody left, she's still in the same office. She took instead of taking the county's position, she took Purdue's position.
Yeah.
Alright.
Position that Purdue opened up.
So when they're at
So we are,
Chelsea Bird, they wrong.
Yes,
Correct.
she took Lisa's
Okay,
position.
alright, okay, good, alright.
so instead of just having 3 educators, now we have 3 and kind of a half because Lisa's still here, even though she's doing more regional work.
I saw the advertisement.
But Lauren moved from a county position to the Purdue position, and now we have a county position open.
Oh yeah, where's that insurance?
It's a big seven.
Page 7.
2 million? Oh, we raised it to 2.25.
Well, why don't we do that and then leave some of these other ones where they're at?
So you're saying start with that, start with the insurance?
And that's 2 point.
Two, I think we changed it to 2.250.
Yes,
Yeah, 2.4.
That was another one, right?
Get close to that.
Okay, so,
and I will be coming to ask you for more money
okay, so the subsidy, the hospital.
very soon here. We're about out for this year again.
Okay, so the hospital, good grief, hospital. Let's leave the hospital subsidy where it's at. You said that was page 16.
Alright, so we're gonna start off with, insurance of 2.2.
Okay, what was page 12?
The sheriff's pension.
How much do
3.8.
Put the next last number.
3.8? We did have 3.8, we kept the hospital insurance and our hospital subsidy. 3.891.
I'm not keeping tally, so you guys,
Yeah.
So type something.
I just want to know what you're deciding when you're done.
Figures, those
Uh-huh. I didn't write them.
Okay, so with the hospital subsidy out, we're at 3.878. Okay, let me check.
We're just going to take $3 million more out of Ed's fund.
I don't even know. What page is it?
It's 16.
$395. Yes.
$3,878,739. If we leave the hospital subsidy for that.
Can we go over again then?
Yes, let's go through it.
Okay, so we got the insurance?
And highlight that, so make sure.
So you want to move all of insurance?
Yes.
Yeah, just to make it easy, that'll be a lot easier for you.
Yeah, when you're done.
Yes, which is
So if you get the-
2.25.
The fund in the amount.
Okay, so the fund is, okay, so the line item is in the commissioner's budget, insurance, $2,250,000. That's on page 7. Turn to page 8. Still, these are all in the commissioner's budget. Insurance, $320,000.
Building
Which
insurance.
is property and
It's building
Property.
and
property insurance, yeah, liability insurance.
and vehicles.
And that's another thing that went up hugely. insurance.
Yes, it did.
Okay, $95,000 is computer maintenance. $115,000 state institutions. Computer consultant.
Did you say, okay, you said 95 for computer maintenance. And then you said what's the next one?
$115,000 for state institutions. Computer consultant, $135,000. Solid waste, $247,000. Turn 2 pages to page 10. The Pauper Council out of Circuit Court, $115,000. And the Pauper Council Appeals is $150,000. How much, 100 what?
150.
The first one was 115, and the second was 115. And then turn the page to Superior Court. The Pauper Council is $111,346. And then their appeals is $60,000. Turn one more page to the sheriff's budget. Page 12. And that's the pension fund, $280,393.
That's your total, that's, 387.
Yeah, the total, y'all can add it up, just to double check my math, $3,878,739.
Well, most of those things were there anyway.
I put one. Oh, but a real big one. Sorry.
I'll try to put them back.
So if they would come back and say you don't have to take the CR money into account, and they would recalculate, then we could
We'll revisit.
revisit.
So when do you think that Baker Tilly might get an answer?
I don't know.
Hopefully within the next month.
And who do they have to go to?
Well, I guess there's a guidance that you have when you calculate this stuff. And it's not excluded in that. So I guess they're reaching out to the powers that be, this government,
Treasury,
whomever that might be. So, just really kind of stinks.
Because they were sort of making up the rules as they went along with this anyway, they didn't have any concrete sort of, but it's,
Well, and I have to trust they know, I mean, they had some questionable items, they weren't sure. They took our annual reports from 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And they went through all of our revenues in there and they calculated, I mean, they categorized them. And there was some that they had questions on. So we had to go back and tell them this was what that was, this is what that was. So they knew whether to add it or take it out. So I have to trust that they know what they're doing. Because I know a lot of counties did not hire them and they're trying to figure it out. And they keep calling me going, how did you do this? I'm like, I don't know, Baker Tilly did it. Well, they don't want to pay Baker Tilly. But you can use ARPA money to pay Baker Tilly. But some counties just didn't get as much money as we did and they want to keep every dime they got. So.
So we're just trying to do it the right way.
But my thing, and I made the comment, I'd rather have them do it, and then we can fall back on them if it's not correct, to fight for us.
Sure.
So, and they're a lot more schooled in all this than we are.
Since they know it's gonna fall back on them, they wanna make sure it happens right.
Well, and they also made the comment, they were conservative, if they weren't sure, you know, they either reached out to us or they tried to figure out what these revenues were. But the lit one, at first, we were in the meeting and they were saying you didn't get it, and Chad was like, well, what would make our revenues go up that much? And then Caitlin said, sure, let's see our tax, you took in $2.7 million last year, so.
Are we satisfied then, right now, with the
Right.
changes on the budget, 22 budget?
We'll
I'm not
continue,
satisfied with it, but
We'll-
swallow the pill.
we'll continue to work on it, and I'll put in everything, and then I'll talk to Robert again and have him keep looking.
Kitty, did you want to speak to this tonight, or you just,
Well, I have a question for Sandy. Yeah,
okay, well, otherwise we're gonna move on to a couple of things.
They don't have
If
a
you,
meeting, but Doug passed away this morning.
these other items are just for discussion, so they were on the agenda.
All right, bye.
do we need to talk about a resolution for,
Well, Mary gave me this today. If you want to get rid of it, we would need a resolution from the council. So I don't know, I mean,
can you explain it? Cause I don't even, all I know is it was a CD. I don't know anything else about it.
back in 1816,
1816.
can y'all remember that far back? When they were selling congressional, it's a congressional school fund. And it says the congressional school fund was derived from the sale of the 16th section of land in each congressional township or land equivalent thereto, granted or reserved to the inhabitants of each township by an act of Congress passed on April 19, 1816. The principal of the fund of each congressional township must be perpetually held in trust. Semi-annually, in July and in January, we have to make a distribution to the four school corporations. Every year, they get $696.08, depending on what sale was in their school corporation. So, like Greater Jasper gets $130.46. Southwest gets $209.98. Southeast gets $123.86, and the Northeast school gets $231.78 every year. So we hold the sale of the money. The sale of the stuff was $17,406. That is held in trust perpetually. The interest that goes into another fund called Congressional School Interest. That's what we make these distributions out of every year. So every year we roll two CDs. One that's the perpetual amount, the other is the interest amount. So there is a statute that says if you guys want to surrender our money, we can give it to the state and they can make distributions to the school. So it's if you want to do that, Greg can work on a resolution to surrender the custody of our fund.
It's not really surrendering the money, right? It's just the state is gonna do the distributions.
We are surrendering our cash. We would give them the money and they have to do the work for it. Or we just continue to hold it here and twice a year send out a check,
Otherwise, yeah,
twice a year.
otherwise the state would do it.
I don't like the idea of
I don't
surrendering.
know, it's kind of the same thing with the keepers thing.
So it's
What
a,
do the schools say?
I don't think they care as long as they get their money.
Well, it's like,
I don't know, I have no idea.
no.
I mean, we've had this forever and a day. We do a report.
Since we were a state.
Well, every year, the oldest report I have in here is 86, who knows what before that, but, oh, here's a 1972, sorry, I lied. It's up to you.
Seems like that interest account's really, it'll create a lot of money.
Well, right, when we do a report every May 1st, the commissioners sign off on it. Doug, you might even remember this when you were a commissioner. We do a report that the commissioners sign off saying what money we have and what we are holding in trust. Let me find it in here.
I'm still stuck back on the original resolution. Okay, so I need to read that. That's interesting.
I'm stuck on $17,000, making $600 every.
Well,
No,
it takes less now.
You distribute, you hold that $17,000 in perpetuity.
Mhm.
The interest it makes goes into the fund, and that's what you distribute the $600 and some dollars out of.
Oh, we're
So
not ready.
the other fund probably started off with a lot more money.
No, I think over the years and years and years, it just, some years you had really great interest and you,
That's only 3.5%.
And this year, nothing. It won't make any money.
Yeah,
right, but we,
For a long time.
this says we have the 17,000 and then we have, the total fund that we have in both funds is $53,363.
So you
So-
only release so much at a time?
You only release twice a year. You do 2 installments. That amount is half and half. $696.08. That's all you release. So if you make more, but every year we send this to the state.
I guess I'm just interested, the one fund into perpetuity is the 17,000. You said the total between the two funds is 58,000. 53,000.
There's another fund.
You have the 17,402, and then you have another CD for the difference, which is the interest. All the interest goes into the other interest fund.
Okay.
So both, if you tie both CDs up, they both get put in the interest fund. This one's always $17,402.
What did they
But if
sell?
we would
The
relinquish it,
16th section of every township,
16
Yeah,
section. I'm just hung up.
it's just, this is just ours. The congressional school fund was derived from the sale of the 16th section of land in each congressional township. So if you look at the map, you know how we're section, township, and range? Each 16th section, I think there's 16, anyway, each 16th section is what that land was sold and put in to help the schools.
It's really working hard these days.
I would say back in the 1800s, it was probably a great thing,
Yeah, it probably was. That's pretty cool.
but
So what's the formula for distribution and
it's always that same amount.
oh, okay, same amount.
It's always the same dollar. And that is not my handwriting, this is, that folder is, this is,
That was a different generation's handwriting style.
yes. Yes.
We can't read her handwriting.
Just tells you all the school corporations and all the townships in the school corporations and how
Just need to go.
they probably had to reclassify it when we went to 4 school corporations in this county.
So
Because at one point, it was more.
You're right, at one point we were 1,
Yeah.
well, they had to divide it, so.
Save so much money.
Anyway,
Okay, so
so her question is do you wanna relinquish,
Or, yeah,
or we can continue on? I mean, it's not that difficult, it's just,
it's kind of a pain in the ass.
it's just tying up the funds and releasing the funds on the second Monday of July and the last Monday of January.
would we want the attorney to look at it before we make a decision on it?
Well, he wasn't gonna write a resolution unless you all wanted to go ahead and relinquish the fund.
I mean, to think through the repercussions of what we do. I mean, if we just leave it alone, I guess we don't do anything.
We'll just
I
continue
mean, I was
on.
just thinking of the repercussions if we wouldn't give it to the state, we don't have to handle it anymore. Will they distribute it? I don't know.
Will they distribute it correctly, on time,
Right.
you know?
I would think you just keep the way it is. That's what I think. Why are we in their process? Why is it here for us to discuss?
Mary brought it to me and just asked if I wanted to, and I don't care either way.
Doesn't bother me.
I just think
Yeah,
it's
no,
a cool little piece of
Why, so you get rid of
5-year
it?
history.
So is the consensus just to leave it alone then? Or- Okay, well, let's just let it alone.
Congressional.
Okay, thanks, Kitty.
No problem.
Sorry.
That's okay.
The next thing I have on this Hoosier Enduring Legacy Program is help that I kind of sent out to you. I think commissioners spoke about it in their special meeting on Friday afternoon. And Sandy sent it on the thing, and I sent a little note out if I could look at it, discuss it, maybe here's tonight, basically it's Milgra is giving out, it sounds like 12 grants of $20,000 each to, it has to be within the county boundaries. It's to hire like a coordinator or a person that will oversee a lot of the art money and any other federal money we get. But it's, you probably read it, it's we gotta create a position with a resolution before we can even submit the application. And the application is due on October 1. So I don't know, anybody want to make comments about it or,
I have a question.
okay?
What's the benefit of pursuing this? If 12 counties basically are going to get it out of the 92. That's my question. What's the purpose of pursuing it?
Becky, you in there too, I mean, we just, or
The way the commissioners were chatting about it was somebody that, say if we're talking the regional sewer district, and you're working with the trustee board around the Hayesville area, that's working with Jasper, that's gonna have the sewage treatment plant, that's working with the county, that you have somebody that coordinates all this stuff to show the state and the ARPA funds and all this, that it is for a greater general benefit to everybody in the county versus buying park benches somewhere and, this type of thing. They're wanting it to be, or if you're looking at broadband or whatever, in our area, that you have somebody then who, to me, it looked like they're just trying to get some people hired too. So, they're chipping in 20,000 the first year. And that was the whole big thing too, of we get to put in the rest of the time. But it was, I think, to help all these different entities that have this ARPA money to do it responsibly and actually be a benefit to the most people in the area. So, the commissioners, I think Chad's gonna be speaking to the mayors and the town managers. Somebody else is speaking to Indiana 15. Just to see how do we go about this, and the same thing of what are we gonna get at?
Like, what's the benefit of
Of
doing this?
our $8.3 million, we'd have to dedicate 30% of that to this help. So that's 2.4, almost $2.5 million. That we'd have to say it's in this project or whatever projects we would put in the help. We could do more, you just have to do a 30% minimum.
Okay, so I have so many questions about this. So will every county get the 20,000 to subsidize in the first year with this coordinator, or it's just the 12?
I think it's 12.
That's how I understood it. It was just 12 counties.
Yes. That's how my interpretation goes.
Was there any other, award?
Well, later on, it talks about $1 million.
To pay up to $1 million of a matching grant to whatever program you decide to do, if it's,
Well, I think it sounds like communities will be expected to provide the following financial commitment: $20,000 match for community coordinator position in the first year, followed by $40,000 in the subsequent years for full-time hiring.
see, so we're accepting another full-time employee of the county. And
We were outside products, just benefits and everything then.
Because if it's at least 30 hours, it's full-time.
Because it does say 30 hours, right?
And they kept saying part-time, but part-time is not 30 hours.
Right.
I don't know what's coming.
Well,
I mean, I have red flags just all over the place, all these strings attached. In the webinar, they were talking about not having the guidance on
And that's what I screen printed today as I watched it.
did you get that feeling too, listening to the webinar, we got the.
I think they're trying,
Coming down.
I think they're trying to come up with a process, but it's only 12 people can win it.
That's what I don't get.
I mean, you got 92 counties out there.
And there's a lot of money out there with these these ARPA funds that I can see a lot of them struggling to do the right thing and make it all worthwhile, but when you cut it down to 12, I'm like, what is?
I'm concerned about, you hire somebody for year 1, 2, and 3, then what happens year 4, 5, 6? What did this person do? Or you let them go, then you got unemployment.
Well, then they were talking about the funds need to be expended by the
26. That's all the ARPA money.
That's all of it.
You have to have it planned for by 24 and then implemented and done by 26.
Yeah, see, the other thing, when you read the application, you know, what they gotta be qualified at, I mean, that's not gonna be somebody just off the street, you gotta be pretty qualified, and the build.
You have to have kind of an understanding.
Right, and build core groups, and, you know, you're gonna have to have somebody pretty qualified, and will they work for $40,000? You know, that, I mean, that's, you know, and then what if, you know, then it's a year of training, and that's what kind of gets me a little bit, is now we're into it a year before we even start our plan to spend our ARPA money. You know, and it just seems like it's you know, and then what happened, you know, I thought, what happens if you hire somebody, you go through the program, you hire someone, and then they, you know, this isn't for me, so you're in it 6 months, and then we've lost all the training.
Very true.
So,
Yeah, because your week 13 doesn't start until this person's hired and you got all this, I mean, they were pretty clear about that.
I read the frequently asked questions, and I think there were, I don't know how many pages, 18 pages, and it was, I think it contradicted what was here down here, or I had to reread it again, and I thought, oh my gosh.
So you red flags too?
Yeah, and I didn't understand what I was reading, I thought, oh my gosh, I walked away and came back later to I'm trying to understand it again, and
I think
I'm with you, I don't know what the true benefit is, I really don't.
and then my other thoughts were, where would this person work under and be supervised? You know, I mean, we were already short on office space in the county, so, you know, I mean, I don't know where they would work. You can't just turn somebody loose and have them sit at the desk. You know, you gotta have supervision of someone. And I thought, well, could we put it under the LEADO program, you know, the Des Moines Strong, you know, economic development possibly, you know, that they would have maybe space, and, I mean, it's a thought, but, you know, it's just, I just can't see you turning somebody loose with all those responsibilities and have them sit at the desk and being creative enough to do all that. You gotta have a qualified person to do that. I don't know.
Is this something though that the city of Jasper, the city of Huntingburg would say, hey, we wanna do this, we wanna be
The lead.
the lead on this?
I think that's what Chad was reaching out to the municipalities to try to see their, and then Nick was gonna reach out to Region 15 to see if their interest was.
Cause some of this tells me, hey, Oprah's got this. Do we get on that bandwagon because they're building more and more, we're gonna see more come through the years on other projects coming down the pipe? Or, you know, is this somebody's brainchild who's sitting up there and doesn't have a whole lot to do and thought of this whole thing?
Well, City of Heidelberg already has that position essentially, Director of Community Development. I mean, I would consider it a similar job, wouldn't it be?
Now, they did mention on the website that if you have a current employee, they have to have a new job description saying this is what their job is, at least 30 hours a week.
Yes, that's a big job description, everything all set up for me, that's right.
So I mean, maybe that, if the city already had that, they can shift gears for a couple of years. I don't know.
Because the city might be better able than we can, you know?
I mean, I don't see how we got honestly enough information here to make a decision on it. And so I spoke with Chad here at a meeting before this meeting. And, you know, I asked him what is he expecting us? And he just said, did he like to hear the comments, you know, what we think, or, because, you know, they're not so, I don't think they're completely sold on this either, you know, and then if, you know, if they would, I guess his thought was if we would, if they would decide to proceed with it, or get the feedback, proceed with it, would we be open to creating or paying for that position? So, you know, which it's gonna be it's gonna cost county 40,000 at minimum the first year and 60 after that. And his, the thought, I think it came up
Plus
too.
benefits.
Well,
That was included.
that's including that.
Oh.
Yeah,
And they talked about it, and we talked about it tonight, is that, we probably need as a county a comprehensive plan, but should we hire a professional to do that? Instead of an employee that, is something iffy, it could be. So, I don't think, I won't even ask for a consensus, I think we kind of gave it the feedback that we got, unless, you want to, it's tough to read that thing, you could read it 2 more times, I don't know if you can get any more out of it.
yeah, that sounds good.
So, anybody really enthused or, to spend that kind of money on this type of position, or if we could find someone, it's the other issue. You gotta have a qualified, I think you gotta have a qualified person. Not that there's not someone out there.
I just think of all the requests that have been made of the ARPA funds. You have to have a pretty strong, just a driver type personality that's gonna, this is our plan.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And we already spent how many hours meeting already on this plan that we're to a point that we were gonna categorize and prioritize, what the requests are. We know kind of what the requests are,
So we kind of already have our set,
basically.
whatever that acronym was.
SIP,
SIP.
Strategic.
Investment plan. I was investment plan, but I'm like, what was the first one?
Because they had several of them after read, like, what's this again? So I went back to, what is called, okay, and all that, so.
So if we could tell the commissioners possibly that we would, let them get their answers and, then they could come back for support. It's gonna be tough, because our next meeting's on September 30th and the thing's October, or 27th, I think. Our next meeting is, this is October 1st, so there's no hardly any way that we can get all that done.
Well, from what I read, we just have to have a resolution with the intent of hiring them,
Right.
so. I guess if over the course of the next month, if there's just this burning desire to do it, they could always prepare a resolution that we could,
A special meeting for them.
well, we could discuss it and pass it on the September.
September 27th.
So we want to just, probably hear it. He's not here.
Doug, what do you think?
We have one person
I
online.
agree with you guys. For one, are we even gonna get it, with those 12 counties? Are we setting ourselves up to start create a new position, fund it, and like I said, maybe the person stays, maybe they don't pull that training out. Just all the extra money that, for the position, if not, we reimbursed for.
The bigger carrot would be from the state, is to say, we'll pay for that position if you win. Say, for the first year or two, the year,
We don't know
the
the
efforts, and you're only, you're gonna get.
Maybe they should find people regionally and say, you 3 counties use this person. That would be better.
Come and advise us, maybe have an advisor, but it seems like it's some ways it seems to me like the cart's in front of the horse here. You know what I'm saying? It's, that we're gonna spend a year trying to figure out how we wanna spend our money. And then that's a year out of our, years that we got to do this.
But the thing is you guys have already spent several months working on that.
Right.
Yeah, we haven't spent any money yet,
Right,
but
the plan,
we've got
it's-
got it in motion.
right, it's materializing, it's like if we go for this, then we're like we're totally delaying,
Or you're at least taking 30% of it and saying, oh, we're not touching that part now.
Well, Alex, you want to make any comments on it, or?
I agree with you guys. I can't. I'd like to talk to Danny Spinner, maybe see what he thought about it, but I don't know. I kind of got the same vibe from that 40-minute YouTube video and then reading through the website stuff. I mean, it was a little over the top. I didn't follow it completely. I feel like it's designed for poorer counties with less strategic planning, is what I think. But, and I don't consider us one of my means as well right as this county is. So I don't think I'd pursue it.
Something you want to comment on?
I know the same as everyone else. I was like you, I was reading, I was going back and listening and, and it sounds like we're already doing the process ourselves. Part of it, the planning and stuff. I don't know. Hard to say no.
I think, I saw with Danny Spinner being involved in or being in charge, some of the, I thought was that if we would pursue it and then be granted, is that a conflict since he lives here? I was trying to, I guess, be devil's advocate a little bit, and I just, does that make him look bad if we're awarded? I'm not putting it on him.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, so
Or if we're not awarded.
yeah, or if we're not, we got discriminated against because he lives, I don't know, that's kind of like catch-22, so, I don't know, so it's
Well, to me, you talked about the poorer counties maybe need this. Will they even have people that can be their coordinator?
Or raise $40,000.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just. It sounded different when the commissioners were talking about.
Watch the webinar.
I went and I'm like, for some reason, this seems like two different things were.
and I'm trying to piggyback a little bit. I think when I was reading it too, and they were referencing community crossings grant. And so I thought, well, maybe, before I dove into it thoroughly, I thought, well, maybe this is an opportunity for us to bring in some valuable stuff by having this person do it, because I think the county we're a service business, we don't make any money on things. And that's why I thought maybe this was gonna be that situation where we could have somebody, they're gonna bring in things to the county, and as I read it, it wasn't that, it was opposite of that, if anything, so.
Just basically, hey, we're gonna dangle this $1 million carrot so
Yeah.
that you hire
So
somebody.
you said
Yeah.
the T's is
Yeah,
here.
because when, I guess I wish they would have said community crossing, because I don't care, but.
Was it community crossings or?
One of it was a stellar.
Stella.
I'm sorry, Stella.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say, community crossing, that's a different, or that's roads. So,
Well, let's do that, I can, if Chad wants to, if that's okay, we'll just put it on, that we're not overly excited about it, because it does. So, okay. So the next thing, I think we got I think Becky and I got an email and Brett went on about this courthouse rehabilitation program they're moving. They're gonna move forward with this thing, I guess they got the design, the architect and everybody coming in on the September 14th, I think. And Becky said she could make it. It's like, I kind of like your feeling on Becky started, as a representative of the county. And then when they got into the courthouse and that kind of thing, Brad and I came aboard, to try to see exactly what we were wanting to do there. So do you don't feel maybe we should stay involved in that, all three of us? Or should we just have one representative? Because I guess I'm thinking the money, they're gonna be coming. And, I don't wanna sway the, two people don't necessarily sway the committee here, or the council here, but.
I just think the more people that have the information, the better.
Okay. All right,
I mean, if both of you are willing to go to the meetings.
I talked to Brett about it, he kind of had a similar thing, that we, you don't put all that, on one person responsible for the whole thing, so. We got, it seems like we got the right people, with the engineer there. Because they are gonna wanna do things to the courthouse with the ADA ramp and possibly the bathrooms yet. I think that's still up in the air with those, using those facilities in the basement there. So if it's okay, I just wanted to make you aware, and if, I think I'm available at least.
They didn't have a time for it, they just gave us a date, so far, that's what I'm trying to tell them, right now I'm available, but.
It's gonna be when?
Absolutely.
Are you talking about a specific date of the meeting?
September
Yeah.
14th is the day that these architects and stuff are coming in. You know, the only thing is that the park board's got a meeting that morning at 9 o'clock, so I was willing to go to that, but, you know, if I'm late or something. The next thing on the agenda, I had, you know, after going through these salaries, that we did there with the additional money, you know, I was wanting to put a group together, get with Marky. I spoke with Charmaine and Craig and myself, that we could maybe meet with Marky and try to, I guess, have an after actions report on it, to try to discuss, is there a better way of doing this? You know, these salary things. And Marky was gonna reach out, and I think he did reach out to some other counties to see how they review this, how they review their employees. I guess if that's okay, you know, we were gonna meet here on, I guess, next week, I guess. So, anybody got any comments on that, or wanna offer some, it's just,
Yeah, this Thursday.
time slips away here.
Yes.
But anyway, if you guys, if anyone's got any input, they can say it now, or, you know, or we'll carry it, and then we'll. Doug, you got anything to add to that? Or I know we had a little discussion when we completed that day, but, you know, I don't know if that was fair to anybody, because I think we were all a little bit tired. To say the least, maybe.
It was
It
It was a long day.
That's when my heartburn started.
There's, I think we can find a better way to do it, and I think eventually, I thought, my understanding was the goal was to have a structure and set, so that with the job descriptions and the, employee evaluation process and all that, that would be more of the guiding force to the types of raises and stuff. So we kind of go from us being overseeing it to that process being the reasoning why X amount of raises was given for X employee and all that stuff. They met their goals, or their evaluation was this number, kind of like how Steve does out of the county highway department. But yeah, I think it does need to be a little tweaked, because that was a lot. And then in a short amount of time, I think if we're gonna keep doing it, the process needs to be started a lot earlier, and needs to come to us a lot earlier, so we have more time to fully evaluate it and get everybody's input in it, so it's a balanced decision. Instead of, you know, because like comments were said, why is this person, why is that person, the information we've gotten, you know, we're trying to do as fair as possible. We want to make sure we get as much information as possible beforehand, and that takes time, and I don't think we were given enough time this time around to fully evaluate it. I think we did a good job with what we were given and all that. Personally, I think we did a good job. We were as non-biased as possible and as stuck to the same reasoning as possible. Yeah.
Could you reiterate, you know, the first couple comments you made there, you know, that we were supposed to just oversee it, or how would you see that, I mean, working? I mean, because now it goes from the person, or technically, the department head, to human resources to,
I thought eventually the process would be driven by the department head's evaluations and the goals that they had set in place. Each employee had certain goals, each department had certain goals for the employee, and if those goals were met, like on the form that we had, or the form that they gave, you got in the original goals and where they met, or future goals and stuff like that. I thought that would be more of the criteria that the department head would use as far as that, and not come back to us and us be the deciding factor. It would be more of, okay, so you met these specific goals, so this is what the raise is for meeting or not meeting, or satisfactory, unsatisfactory, or halfway getting there, things like that. Kind of making it a point system process, like Steve, just like I say. I think I originally thought that's kind of our end goal. So am I wrong in thinking that? I thought that was more of a,
Well,
See, get there, but
I was gonna say, I don't know what the end goal, my end goal is. I think at some point we're done. This job pays this, and that's it. And we feel like it's a fair salary, along with pay increases that go on
right.
based on the job. That's how I
We're
feel.
doing it, we're now past that point. I think we already got that part, but now I think we're to the point where the individuals are saying, because I do this much more in the position, I deserve this much more in salary.
Right.
And I thought that once we got to that point, as far as the individual is concerned, comes off of us. We've already set the standard for each job category, position, and all that stuff, the generic category. Now, once the individual is either going above and beyond or meeting goals, whatever, I feel that's more of a department head decision, because it's something within their department that.
But ultimately, you guys set the salaries and the.
Right, we set the salaries, but with the money that we give them, they could have one person different than the other, depending on, I keep coming back to like Steve does. I mean, I think that's.
Yeah, but I just don't know that I don't think anybody will do that. I just don't think anybody will do that. That's not a cut to any department head. I think in order to keep harmony and keep it, you have to do what's being done.
But that's what comes back to the evaluations.
Yes.
I mean, if you can't validate it through the evaluation
It's very
process,
difficult.
then how?
It has to be. I can't imagine what you go with. I mean, so same with Kitty. So she has 2 full-timers in her department. So, I mean, how does she decide?
Well,
that
it's different,
somebody
it's
works-
different for Steve, who can send all of his people to 6 different places every day and they don't see each other. It's difficult when you're sitting in the same building, you guys are sitting right beside each other. I mean, it's basically what we're doing, day in and day out.
Yeah, ideally, I'm with you. That's what I think it should happen. I just don't think it's going to, because especially with the department that changes, possibly every 4 years, for sure every 8. And they're always gonna,
And everybody's got different ways of doing things.
yes, and I honestly, I was with you, Doug, from the beginning. I was like, this is how it's gotta be, this is how it's making. And
I think
I'm
we
like,
make it structured
yeah,
as it needs to be. I think that is a possibility. I mean, I know you guys probably don't agree, but I think that is a possibility. If we have it structured where you met A, B, C, D, but you didn't meet E, F, and G, then that's a quantitative amount of
Let
something.
me ask a question. I can take you aside and say, let's make 6 goals. Yours might be pretty simple. Yours might be very difficult. And you say, well, his were easy. How come mine weren't that easy? You can meet yours, she can't. You're gonna run into that. Just saying.
And it's kind of on that form, that excellent thing, when they did excellent work, or they can perform,
It's,
But I also think it's to the department head to make goals for the person. The person may have their own goals, but, I think the department head has to take on that responsibility of, hey, I think you need to be making this at this point in your whatever.
Alex, you got anything to add to it, or?
Just a lot of disparity in different jobs that people do in the county. It's hard. Then you gotta try to evaluate what the evaluation means. Okay, this department head saw it this way, his personality or hers is like this, the next one's hardly any excellence. And then I don't have any interaction with those particular employees, so I'm supposed to go off of the department head and not be biased. I don't know, it's a little tricky, but county government's an odd duck with guys paving potholes and people are auditing books. I mean, it's all over the place. I don't know, it's a tough one for me.
We have way too many types of positions. Not everybody walks in and does pretty much the same thing. It doesn't happen.
Just in your office, everybody's doing
Every,
something different.
we have 7
it's
different
all
people with
important.
7 different type of jobs.
There were a handful of people I don't know, and I have to trust the supervisor, so that's what I did on the raise evaluation.
And I was thinking about that. What if we got all that info and we didn't have names and we're just reading what they told us? So you have somebody who can write well, or you've got a department head who can write well, and other one says, you know. I don't think.
Who did it in 5 minutes? That was me.
We're just like.
Well, I would say Dana Wood, that was the first one I read, and when I sat down, I went, oh my gosh, I am a fool if I don't give her something. And then after that, it just got worse, and oh my gosh, went back to hers, where it was well written, and, to your point about that, so it's a
But
challenge.
it's definitely, some people are grant writers and some people are not.
Absolutely.
And that's not necessarily fair to the employee
Right.
that's
Correct.
asking if,
Right.
right, yeah, it's not written.
But the department head should know.
The department that should be.
I just think the department heads. How many do we have that are doing evaluations? Probably not many. I think I asked Marky that. You know, that was the whole thing a few years ago, 7 years ago, was let's get in this process. By now, you would think everybody's covered with an evaluation and goals. I'm sitting down with you, I'm gonna help you with your goals, because you're kind of weak here. But let's see what we can do. That's for the department head, or the supervisor.
Do you think we had that amount of people asking because it was kind of new people out? Like, do you think it'll go down the amount?
Some possibly, I
You know what
don't,
I mean, like, yeah, that we won't get as many next time.
I
Since we
think,
kind of have been trying to get everyone where they need to be and.
I think last year you rolled out some and others were like, hey, I didn't get to do that one, so I'm gonna do it this year. And the next year you're gonna get the same thing, hey, they got some, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
Some that may have not gotten.
Yeah, I think so my point is,
People are thinking of reapplying.
I think it continues until we say, till we're comfortable with, this is the job, we did a true evaluation of it, and we've done like comparisons made with other counties. This is what everybody else is paying, this is what we're paying, we're comfortable, and we're done. And I'm not sure that, I'm not saying it's how it's gonna be, but I think that's where it goes. At some point, we have to get to the end, and that's, I guess, my end, I guess, is what I think it needs to be. Doesn't mean I'm right.
I think it was hard, but I'm glad we did it because, like, just thinking of the coroner, you know, we learned so much more about what the coroner does and like how little they get paid for all of the work that they have to put into each of those cases. You know, just that one case in point, you know, I feel like that is the reason we did this, so that we could catch the ones who still are not getting proper compensation for what is required of them, of that job description.
Totally agree with that. I think it forced us to learn a little bit more about each, more individuals and each department, so. But why don't we, we'll have the discussion with Mark, maybe he's got other ideas, and then we'll just report back, if that's okay.
Sure.
So,
And we can hop over to that situation.
okay, I just want to make a quick report on the jail and the community corrections. You know, it's going well out there. They got the foundations, a lot of the foundations in. They're doing the underfloor plumbing, the mechanical guy is. So they're getting underfloor plumbing and electrical. They, I think we purchased, they installed a new phone system and ran the wire, a new conduit and wires between the two buildings. So that's all tied in already. And that was somewhat of a soft cost that was done straight through Matrix. So you understand that.
The new phone system is in, we're still with the same service for the time being. We have not switched them to a different service.
You were talking like we're gonna get them on the same service that everybody else does
Well,
eventually. Is that
we're on the same system, hardware wise. Like now we can call them direct. They're on our system, we're just on different service providers into the buildings. We have one service provider and they still are on their old one. And we're looking at possibly moving them to get the, if there's cheaper rates, because we try to get the company with the cheaper rates, so. Because I think there was some misunderstanding of it, that they thought they were on the new service, and I said, not yet, you're on the new system, not on the new service. It's kind of like your cable coming into your house, you have the same TV, or you get a new TV, but you still have the same cable service.
So in the past, you couldn't transfer calls out there. So
No, we were on two,
you had to give them the phone number and say.
we had to call 812 whatever to get out there. Now we can just dial their 4-digit extension and reach them. So it's nice. They're still learning. It's a nice system. It's got a lot of bells and whistles to it.
And then the last thing here, we did, they're gonna be pouring the floor after everything gets in on the geopod. And, we decided, I think it was the sheriff and Megan and myself and Chad that went to, a company that, does, what was specified is just concrete sealed, with acrylics, an acrylic sealer, just a secure and seal. And we thought, it's gonna be, the sheriff was really for cleanliness and long-term maintenance. So we looked at the urethane finish. So they go in there and afterwards and kind of sand the floor, put possibly a stain on it sometime, maybe it could go gray or brown or whatever. And then put a urethane sealer that should last at least 10 years without touching it. So, I think it's just gonna be easier to maintain. But we have not approved it, we got the pricing and that kind of thing together for kind of both buildings. I think community corrections would be a hallway where the inmate comes in, so that area so they can keep it cleaner. And so it's I think it's probably a right decision to make, but it's $54,000 or something additional. So, but I think otherwise the acrylic sealer has to be applied maybe every 3 to 5 years, and then you got to move these inmates around the two areas. So it's kind of that's really about it. I think there's a meeting Wednesday again, so it's going well. Otherwise, any other discussions that Mark, did you want to say?
Just listening.
So there's one.
I hate doing it on the Zoom. Just kind of old fashioned, I guess.
So this Wednesday, there's another progress meeting?
Yes, it's
I keep putting it down and I keep having things come up. I can't get out there.
well, we did move it to the
Basement.
because of the
Larger than that trailer.
oh, it was getting pretty
It was
tough.
hot one of them too.
And
So I mean, I think so far, on schedule is.
I think they put out a passes around, they put out a pretty good schedule, and they update it every week, or every 2 weeks. Yeah, I got one, September 1st at 10 o'clock is what I got.
So
I can make this one.
when we get the progress reports or the emails from that, do we forward it on? I haven't done that, but do we need to forward it on everybody?
Well,
I do get the minutes from those
Yeah.
meetings. I guess I could pass them around. I didn't realize I should.
sometimes, at first I didn't get them, and then the last 2 meetings I did start getting them.
Okay, I did too, and I didn't,
But
because I went to that one meeting, so.
is everyone interested in that, or, we can forward it on, or we can forward it on, or,
Yeah, I usually get them 3 or 4 days after.
Yeah.
but, right now, not too much excitement going on, and stomping around the dirt, the mud up there. It's,
You can definitely see stuff going on up there.
yeah, oh, absolutely. The big thing is the steel's going in on, it said October 1st, the steel for the pod, no, October 30th. So they got a rush to get that covered before the geopods come, the steel cells come in. So they're gonna be erecting that, hopefully not in the snow, but it's gonna get late here. Otherwise, if no one has anything, that's all I had.
Mike, I do have one question.
Okay.
Is there ever a way that the agenda for the meetings can be published ahead of time?
I can add you to the list when I send them out. I usually send them out on Thursday or Friday the week before.
That'd be helpful.
I mean, just give me your
I
email
just thought
address.
it'd be available for the public, and I guess it isn't.
Well, I don't really put it, I mean, because it changes up until usually Friday or Saturday or Monday morning sometimes. Commissioners, I try to send them out on Thursdays, afternoon or evening. These guys, I try to send them out Thursday or Friday morning, just because as soon as I put it out there, it changes.
Oh, I understand.
But give me your email address and I'll add you to our list.
Okay.
Would it be possible to just put it on the county webpage? Or does that be too much work?
I don't know where we put it. I mean, I can look into it, but like I said, it changes. Then you have to go back out, take it out, and put it in, that's the
I
problem.
was thinking maybe put it on the same page with the minutes, but that changes all the time. It's like,
Yeah, we don't put the minutes on until they've been approved and
yeah,
like last meeting,
later.
they'll go up. It's just difficult, but if you do give me your email, I will put you on the list and you will get them ahead of time.
Okay.
I have several people who do that.
Okay, I'll get you.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Sean, Doug, so all in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed?
As long as you two keep doing it, I don't have to change this, cut and paste.
Next time I'm gonna jump at that, Sherman,
Fine by me.
so you have these.
Is it doctor or is it just 5 minutes?
Yeah, next morning, that's like.